Hello guys, so today we are going to start another very interesting chapter and a very easy chapter, and you will always find some questions coming from this chapter inside all the competitive exams as far as aptitude thing is concerned. So we are going to start with permutations and combinations. Now inside this chapter, there are some concepts which have to be very much well understood. As with every other chapter, these concepts, if well understood, will make it so easy for you to solve any question inside competitive exams. So do give attention, just don't go on solving questions. You have to solve questions. That's one thing which is very important. But then you have to make sure that you understand the concepts pretty well. Because if you have strong command over the concept, questions made be in any form, will become very easy for you. So just don't focus, don't just focus on solving a number of questions like, astronomical amount of questions, but also focus on keeping on revising the concepts, because that is one thing which is really very important while you are appearing for any competitive exam. So let us start permutation and combination. So the first concept that we will study is the fundamental principle of counting. So fundamental principle of counting has got two things. One is and the other one is or. So we are going to see or in the a bit later on. So let us see and. Fundamental of principle of counting. And means multiplication, right? This is one thing that you have to understand, that and means multiplication. We'll study this in detail, so don't worry. So the statement says, if there are n jobs, so there are n jobs, say j1 j2 so on up to jn, which are to be done such that ji, that means any j term like either j1 or j2 or j3 up to jn, can be performed in mi independent ways, right? Means j1 can be performed in m1 independent ways, j2 can be performed in m2 independent ways, j3 can be performed as m3 independent ways, so on. Jn can be performed in mn independent ways, right? So there are n jobs j1 to jn, and all these jobs can be performed in j1 j2 j3 so on up to jn independent ways, right? Independent is one word which is again very important over here, right? Independent ways, right? So independent is again another word which is very important. Then if you have to do all the jobs, right, you have got a work which involves doing all these jobs, then in how many ways you can do this work will be equals to m1 into m2 so on up to mn. That is the multiplication of individual number of independent ways in which each of these jobs were actually being performed. So what is here is that you have got a complete work w to be done, and this w involves n jobs, j1 j2 j3 j4 so on up to jn, and each job, let's say j1 j2 j3 so on up to jn, can be done in m1 m2 so on up to mn independent ways, right? So what will be the total number of ways in which you can complete the entire work w? Entire work w means you have to complete all the jobs in a synchronous way. So how many ways it can be completed? That will be equals to m1 into m2 into m3 so on up to mn, right? And what are these m1 m2? These are all the independent ways in which these sub jobs, in which these sub works of the entire work w, that is j1 j2 j3 so on up to jn, can be performed, right? And we will see this with the help of a question. This will become very much clear to you. Now let us suppose see this question. So there's a test paper which consists of 10 questions. So there's a test paper which consists of 10 questions, and each question has got 4 options, right? 4 choices. If each question has to be attempted, right, find the number of ways of answering the test paper. So the ways of answering the test paper, so what is the actual work is that you have to answer the test paper. This is the work. And if you have to answer the test paper, that is this is the work w, you have to answer all the questions. Why? Because each question has to be attempted, right? So let's suppose j1 j2 j3 so on up to j10. These are all the jobs that you have to do in order to complete this work, and this work is of attempting the test paper. And what is the first job that you have to do is to answer the first question. Second job, answer the third question. Third job, answer the third question, so on up to answering the 10th question. So these 10 jobs, make your entire work w. And what is this w? This w is attempting the test paper. Now this entire work w involves doing all the 10 jobs, right? So in how many ways this W can be done? If J1 can be done in M1 ways, if J2 can be done in M2 ways, so on up to J10 can be done in M10 ways. So W can be done in M1 into M2, so on up to M10 number of ways. This is what the fundamental of principle of counting tells us. Now see how we can apply this principle over here. This will become very much clear to you. So let's suppose you understand here that you have to do 10 jobs, right, to complete this work of attempting the test paper. So what are number of ways of attempting the first question? You can attempt the first question there are four ways of doing that, right, because you can select any of the choices. So four ways into what are the, how can you do the second job, that is attempting the second question? Four ways. Again, you can select any of the four choices. Similarly, you can do, for all the jobs like J1 to J10, all the jobs can be done in four independent ways. Means in how many ways you can attempt the test paper? That will be 4 into 4, so on up to 10 times, right? And this becomes equals to 4 to the power of 10. See, so if you understand the concept well, it becomes very easy for you. So, the concept should be there in your mind, and you should use the same logic actually to solve any question. This is what is the trick for success, guys. So this is something which is very important. People do focus a lot on solving questions without at all, understanding the concepts pretty well. So if you just go on solving the question, I can make a question which will confuse you. But if you focus on understanding the concepts, right, I cannot make any single question which can confuse you, because you know the concept pretty well. So please try to focus on that. Now the second question is, how many three-letter words, right? How many three-letter words can be formed using only consonants, but each only once? Means you have to form three-letter words, right? So three-letter words is what you have to form, and you have to use only consonants. So how many consonants are there? 21 consonants, because total alphabets are 26. Out of that, 5 A, E, I, O, U are actually vowels, so the remaining 21 becomes your consonants. And you cannot use one consonant double, right, in the same word. So there should not be any repetition of the consonant. So if you see, right, this is the first place of the word, second place of the word, and third place of the word. So can I say that to form this three-letter word, I have to perform three jobs? The work is what? To form a three-letter word. And what are the jobs? J1, J2, and J3. J1 is the first word. The second letter will be the J2. The third letter will be J3. So in how many ways I can fill in the first letter? In 21 ways, because I've got 21 consonants. So 21 ways I can fill in the first letter. Second letter can be filled in 20 ways. Why? Because since you have filled in the first letter with one consonant, so that consonant has to be avoided. Why? Because there should not be any repetition. It has been given here, they can be used only once. So the second letter can be filled in 20 ways. Similarly, the third letter can be filled in 19 ways, because you have already used up the two consonants. So in how many ways can you form a three-letter word? That will be equals to 21 into 20 into 19. So that comes out to be 7980. See, so questions become so easy, right, if you understand the concepts pretty well.